Crab Tendo.
I'm DJ Av. Smash that like button, comparison video. Let's do this, and don't forget to subscribe. And what we have here are the two wavetable synths between Serum, Xfer Serum, and Tone2 Icarus. And we're going to talk about, the things that make them alike and what makes them unalike, and probably subjectively which one is better for you. So tell me which one in the comment section do you much prefer after this video, which will be very lengthy, by the way. So oscillators, two oscillators for Serum, but those are the two bass oscillators. What I mean by bass oscillators, I'm not talking about BASS, I'm talking about BASE, bass. The two bass oscillators, oscillator A, oscillator B, which has content in which you get to choose from a plethora of things within, this coming out in 2014, I presume. I can't really remember. It has compiled a lot of stuff. And if I was to bounce over here to Tone2 Icarus and go to their content, it's not as much content, but we'll explain. We're gonna go through that as well to show you some of the crazy stuff about that. So, again, I said two bass oscillators here, and for a reason, because you have a sub oscillator on the side here, in which you get to select from different waveforms, from sine all the way up to pulse, to two different pulses and triangle and all that. And your noise oscillator, which is not typical at all. I mean, the noise oscillator, I kid you not, in Serum kicks ass. I mean, it's only way I can say that, as it has tons of noise to pick and choose from. And not only that, you can key track them to your 12 keys per octave, depending on how many keys that you have on your keyboard, or if you do have a keyboard at all, in which you can actually play it, as in presumably by modulated between the two, and you can one-shot them as well. So yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to Tone2 Icarus, which has three oscillators, in which, again, you do have a slight amount of different stuff that you can work with in terms of that, including noise as well. And we're going to get into certain particular content in general. Now, I have basic shapes pulled up in Serum, and we're going to talk about the unison voices, because that is one great thing I can tell you between the two, and I do have them at their default volume, so keep that in mind when we're going through this video. And I'm going to select from the wavetable position the sawtooth from the basic shapes. By default, when you initialize Tone2 Icarus, this is what you get, and you have sines, saw, square, and sine. Much the same with this as well. So, unison voices. Let's play a C sharp here. You have this, which is sawtooth. Two voices. 3, 4. In which you can detune and make a stronger signal within, that particular waveform that you selected. As you can see, graphically is represented, so that you can see what is going on within the chemistry of the sound, which is very important. It's a very important thing for you to understand what the science is of that. And I think that's where Serum shines at doing, including when you're working with the blend. Now, again, as you can see, off rip that there's a noticeable difference in volume. Don't be, all that enthused about that, because it's like that from the default volume. Because, that's volume is volume, but, here. There we go. So you can set the unison voices by selecting this first tab within this oscillator window. And, there's some pretty cool options. And including, selecting major and minor thirds. And even selecting sevenths. So, I guess that will be a slight W for Tone2 Icarus there when it comes to that. Of course, you have your octave selections and stuff like that up here, and your semitone and your fine tone, and even a coarse tone, in which I do find that to be an awesome thing that they added, I guess, an extra way to expressing the pitch of a particular sound, especially if you're trying to add some of that analog feel to it, which we'll get into a little later. Phase. About phase. As you can see, you can mess with phase here, and there is a subtle difference in the sound or that is being articulated. Now, if I go over here to this phase, not so much, but that might be some case. I don't know, but we're just gonna take the benefit of the doubt and say that Serum takes the W there. Again, you do have panning and stuff like that. That's pretty arbitrary to, well, pretty much the same thing that you will get. But we're going to talk about wavetable warping, which it takes awesome, an awesome thing that Serum does. As you see, you can warping the waveform in Serum has automatically a ridiculously insane presence to it. And, morphing in here is much the same. So let's look at what you could do within each other's warp within Serum or morph in Icarus. What can be accomplished. Now, you can do everything from FMing from different oscillators in Serum to amplitude modulation to even ring modulation within Serum as well when it comes to that warping feature, as well as other ones that might not be as immediate but mirroring, which leaves kind of a different kind of frequency modulation, as you can see it visually being represented, as well as you can click on the window of the oscillator and see how it looks from two different perspectives. It's awesome. I ain't gonna lie to you. So where's that lead this? Now, if I click on the window, you do get that, but again, it's not the exact same thing. And also, if I was to go to different things within Tone2 Icarus, you see that you do get a ish ton of stuff, including, weirdly enough, you get to white noise whatever you want. Now, that's kind of different from what Serum can do in terms of noise oscillation, as it has its own independent noise oscillator. But that means that Tone2 Icarus has different things that you can do within your own creative mindset when you do different types of noise in terms of that. But again, it's up to the imaginator. One thing I do want to point out is vocoding is a thing within Tone2 Icarus oscillator. Yeah. So that is much different from what Serum can do in terms of that. And I'll probably get into that later. And granulizing. And you can one-shot as well. So, with that being said, let's move on a little forward here, and let's talk about one thing that I really wanted to talk about, and which is a detrimental point to either or, is the filter section. And Serum has probably one of the most extravagant filter sections that you can ever get within a VST of this manner, or wavetable synth, or anything soft synth. Keeping it real, one of the best. So, you get everything from your regular high pass, low pass, band passes in different poles, to things in terms of different natures where they mix up different poles as well as different, well, filters, including some common and uncommon comb filters and flange filters and psychoacoustics, to even stuff like reverb, which I'm going to demonstrate now. Full as hell. One thing I do want to express about the filters is that you can choose what you want to route from each and every oscillator if you do or do not want to route them, as well as key tracking as well, to kind of spread the harmonics evenly within the different pitch keys in octaves or whatever you want to call them. These are pretty much similar to one another as far as like drive. You get to see them graphically how they're represented, so that way that you won't confuse yourself a little later down the line when you're trying to work with the filters, which is a huge plus there. Now let's go ahead and talk about the filters in Tone2 Icarus, and which you get a plethora as well, and I do find them to be just as good, but as you can see, is a little less than Serum again. But, you know, that doesn't make them less spectacular, because one thing I would like to point out within the filters, and I'm going to need to add more volume here. Perhaps I'll not add volume right there and just add drive. I'm going to show you something real quick. As you can see, you know, you have different filters, which you can turn them on and off and choose which one, and then you have two different filter sections, but that doesn't mean that Serum doesn't have two filters, as in the FX tab right here. You can select another filter again and get all the same options, which I'm going to talk about in a few moments here. One thing that Tone2 Icarus has that has always been engaging in a Tone2 product is the distortion, as bringing saturation to the filter itself, and that's not even working adding different types of distortion individually as an effect. I guess I can add a little bit more volume. And you know, if I was to work with that, as you can see, having that in the filter section kind of expresses the filter in a more broader manner there, versus, you know, Serum that has the drive parameter is damn good. Don't get it twisted, but this is by far a very more interesting thing there in terms of that. I don't know, I just like messing with that. Which brings me to another thing. Let's talk about the modulation, because the realest part, and I mean the heartbreaking and awesome part about synthesis in general, is what you could do modulation wise or movement wise to a particular waveform or sound synth that you're working with. And boy, the Serum got it on lock when it comes to that, as Serum actually kind of revolutionized the game when it comes to drag and drop. And let's show you, let me show you the depth of this. Now, as you can see, as I just drag and drop this LFO in there, you know, that continuously just kind of move that. Give it another wavetable here. the things that it excels in is being able to, you know, go 0 to 100 and 0 to negative 100 within just this one parameter knob without going through the mod matrix, versus where Tone2 Icarus takes a more traditional route here, and you get 3 LFOs plus a step LFO, which is kind of their signature thing to do. But you have to go through this mod matrix here. Different strokes for different folks, but it's there, and it's not too difficult of a thing to do, especially if you've been doing this for a long time. I'm gonna go ahead and modulate the cutoff, and we're gonna speed things up. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and add another LFO right there. Boy, this thing gets very rude, and that's the shining moment there for Serum. It gets very, very rude and disrespectful very quickly, especially when the modulation comes in. They're both. Again, they can be dictated by BPM or free running by deselecting each other's BPM feature. That reverb filter is something real, boy. I kid you not. But yeah. Let's see. Okay, so insert Michael Jordan crying baby face meme. But anyways, yeah, we're back. So I'm back into it. So I'm just going and initializing each one, which I don't have to do that to Serum. It's default like that. And we're gonna continue to talk about modulation here. Again, modulation within Serum is a bit funner to do. It's funner. It's just fun to do, and within Icarus, it's fun as well. But and then on top of that, the visual helps more for that part, for that matter. So, but again, we're gonna talk about some of the things that I wanted to show off in terms of like the LFO options. So you have a bit of a nice amount of different LFOs that you get to work with within Serum, and then I have things that I have saved, and then you can save them as well as you make them. LFOs within Tone2, you do have a ish ton amount of stuff that you can work from. One thing that kind of hurts it in general when it comes to the LFO section is the fact that you can't edit multiple things, but in the step LFO you can edit how you want them to appear. So that much I can give Tone2 Icarus credit for. Now, that is one of the hugest things in terms of that. Now, I broken down a lot of the stuff in terms of the modulation. The envelopes, they're fairly about the same. I mean, there are a couple of things that I could say that it shines in terms of, well, Serum shines in terms of the envelope section being the drag and drop option there, which kind of makes that more superior than Tone2 Icarus. But there's one super shining moment for Tone2 Icarus, and that is the fact that it has its own separate arpeggiation option that you have, in which, you know, if you look at Serum, there's no way to arpeggiate other than using your LFOs and, you know, drawing out your arpeggiation, which can be a daunting task. So that is a L that they have to hold in terms of that. As you can see, you know, you can actually, by selecting the tools section, you can select a lot of the different arpeggiation in terms of that, you know, how you want them to be, including, you know, the BPM and etc. to things that aren't so traditional, as well as like Pacific pitch bending. Holy gosh. But yeah, that is one thing that I had to point out that, you know, Tone2 clearly wins at in terms of that. So onwards to the things that I want to talk about. The miscellaneous options, you know, you do have many different options of which you can select how you want your pitch width set, to even changing the different colors. You know, if you're into having different color GUIs, in terms of just the GUI or whatever. Let's go have a go at it, shall we? And, you know, as you can see, you can change that. You know, Serum, you know, you're gonna see blue and gray or whatnot, unless somebody really gets into making a specific amount of content for that. But that's just one of the things that you could do. That's just offset from that. Global stuff, you have a lot of global that you have in Serum that you can mess with, which is kind of dedicated that you want to get into this part. It's a little advanced, but it will help within like managing certain things like the CPU load, which, you know, that has been an argument that Serum is a CPU hog, but the truth be told, most people don't have great computers for music, or have computers that are made for music that really do music these days. So, you know, you gotta keep that in mind. And much the same if you was to mess with Tone2 Icarus, because you have to have an adequate computer for, you know, synthesis in general, especially in this modern day. Now, effects, that Serum has a lot of effects where you have hyperdimension, distortion, flanger, phaser, chorus, delay, compressor, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna deselect the other ones right here. Reverb, EQ, and filter. Yet again, I talk about that, in which they all are adequate for the job. They do the job well, and, you know, are kind of CPU intense when you get down to that, in which you'll probably have to reduce the polyphony. But again, you know, that will be something where Icarus will kind of shine at in terms of that, as they have a ton of effects that you get to work from, as well as platelets, templates to work from platelets. Well, but yeah, so yeah, keep that in mind that you can do that, as well as being able to mix which and any oscillator that you want into whatever effects that you want, as well as having 3 different pages of the same options and routing, where you can set the routing for it. Again, that doesn't mean that you can't route in Serum, because hey, you know, you can route them together or whatnot by clicking on this and moving it, which I almost didn't know how to do for a second. Whoa. But yeah, so, you know, give or take, that would be subjective of which one sounds better. But if I was to give my opinion in terms of what do I prefer in effects, in terms of synthesis and these soft synths, I definitely would give that to Tone2 Icarus, for that matter. Ending moment, and the last thing of this discussion I want to talk about is the editing, because a lot of people have said that Tone2 Icarus doesn't have editing. Why would I want it if it doesn't have editing? You know, for that matter, yeah, I understand that. You know, Serum can pull up to 256, which it gives you the option of how you want to slice your wavetable as you insert it. But the one shining thing that I would have to give to Tone2 Icarus is this when it comes to theirs. As you can see, they both have their editors in which, you know, give or take, I would definitely say that Icarus kind of wins in this standpoint because because it's able to vocode and stuff like that, and they had like the vocoding options. You know, Icarus automatically plays and granualizes the way, more or less, I guess, what a hip hop head would like in terms of, you know, sampling and resampling. So, with that being a result here and this super long video, which I didn't think it was going to be this long in this comparison video, boy, is there a lot of stuff there that, you know, which one do you think is better? You know, if it comes down to personal preference, I prefer both. If I was forced with a gun to my mouth to choose one that I would want to produce with on a day-to-day basis, it would be very, very difficult for me to choose. So I might die. I might die having to choose because I'm like tough. But anyways, if you like this video, give it a like. If you have any comments, please leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe. I got plenty of other videos like this as well. I do apologize for the long video, but man, this is like an extensive content. They're both very similar, and they're both aimed at the same market in which they are both going to dominate for a long time. Serum has already dominated this particular area in EDM for a long time, and is just moving over to hip hop. While in the meantime, Tone2 Icarus is gonna probably have an immediate effect in, you know, the modern day trap field or whatnot, or hip hop in general, because in R&B. So yeah, I'm DJ Al McCree. Later.